Okay, this is Delvin versus Delnero, double D. Now, my first name is my first name, but my middle name is Delvin, and my, I will say my world name is Delnero, where he is somebody that I wouldn't say that I don't like, but I'm gonna be honest to you. He's not a good person to people, and like when a lot of people like to portray things or play games, like when it comes to Delvin and Del Nero, it's no playing and it's no sides because some people will say two sides to one coin. I wouldn't really say that because if I have to say that Delvin is the good one and Del Nero is the bad one, it wouldn't really make sense saying that, and but the best way I could explain it to you is Delvin is a whole piece of work. That's all I will say. Delvin is a piece of work where my mother and father, that's the middle name they chose, and Delvin is Delvin. Delvin is something else where some people would say he's a superstar. He is. Delvin is there when nobody is there. Delvin got your back when nobody ain't got your back. Delvin will ride for you even when you don't ride for yourself. And it's not easy to understand a person like Delvin because you would have to, straight up and down, you would have to live around that. You would have to see it in action, like Delvin don't care what color a person is. Delvin don't care what religion a person is. If he feel that he has to save you or help you, that's what Delvin to do. Like Delvin don't see and feel in many different ways, and some people will say, what do you mean? Delvin don't have an emotion where people want to find an emotion, you know. One time, somebody asked Delvin, why did he do something? And it was a person that Delvin didn't get along with, and the person and Delvin didn't get along with each other. And you know what? Straight up, Delvin told that person, I didn't do it for you. It ain't about you. And for a lot of people that Delvin told that to, see, some people will think that they could use that. And they will keep on using that. And they think that, oh, the niceness in Delvin. Oh my gosh, he's so kind. Yes, yes, yes. Well, in the lifetime of Delvin, Delvin been nice to many, and many people took his niceness for weakness. And they thought it was okay, but when they seen the fire inside of Delvin, that's when a lot of people called him crazy. A lot of people backed away from him. A lot of people judged him. And it's all good because you know why? Delvin loved all of it. You know why? Because Delvin remembers. what they forgot. You know, it's very easy for people to tell you, you this, you're that. And as I always say, you're crazy to people when they don't like you, pull them up on their nonsense. But when they want to use you, you're like Albert Einstein, Nikolai Tesla. You're the smartest person in world history. You're the best of the best. That happened to me many times. You know, I am Delvin. Now, and this is why I don't really deal with people on a scale of telling me anything too much. You know, like, I'll have respect for you, but don't tell me nothing. Don't tell me nothing, because the only two people that I could actually really listen to and they could tell me something is my mother and my father. Other than that, you're just talking to yourself when you talk to Delvin. Okay? Because it's not disrespecting people, but as I say, if you don't know me, you don't know me. And if you think you're going to talk to me how you want or however, you don't know. Bless up, open-minded. Bless up, man. Thank you for always supporting me. Thank you, for real. Much respect to that, cuz. And that's one thing that I'm gonna express it, you know, cuz as I say, I came on this internet and I see how a lot of people they use the same thing as me expressing as in Delvin. You see how I get on here. I don't get on here. Delvin, you don't hear Delvin talk about nobody as in going back and forth and talking about another man or talking about another woman. That's not, I wouldn't say that's not in my DNA, but I'm going to be honest to you. What did he say in Friday? I can't get jiggy with that. I can't get jiggy with that because I'm going to explain something to you, because this live is called Delvin and Delnero. And if you don't like it, I don't care, okay? Now, hold on, let me read. I support the real, and that you are. Thank you very much, man. And, you know, boomerang right back at you, for real. Because me, as I told a lady earlier at my job, I respect people that treat me the same way that I treat everybody. You know? And if people can't get that, I don't care if you can't get that, because I don't care what color you is. I don't care what religion you is. I don't care about you being a male or female. I do things a certain way where certain humans in this world don't get along with it. And now that I finally see certain things, I don't care even more, because, as I said, fighting in this world between humans of what's negative and what's positive, I've seen a lot of people try to act like they know what's negative and positive. Okay, let me finish cooking. Now, Delvin, or for example, I'm going to give you a little instance of what Delvin is, because this is Delvin and Delnero. And me talking about Delvin and Delnero, like, before I could have probably been sad saying this, but I had to learn that Delvin and Delnero made me survive when nobody didn't have my back but myself and God, the Most High, Jah, or the superior being, however you want to call it. Now, I'm going to say this, and I don't care how people take it. When I defend people and when I have other people back, as in Delvin, It wasn't that I didn't care what I was doing. It's not that. It's that being from the South Bronx, and if you see some people, and I'm going to say this, but I don't care. If you grew up where I grew up at, and you have big boy cousins and a brother like mine's, and you was the short, skinny one, you ain't gonna be a bully, but you damn sure ain't gonna be no punk. And going from the Bronx to Brooklyn, Delvin, I'm gonna explain it to you. I thought everything was a cakewalk because, as I said, from the South Bronx, where a lot of people like to glorify a lot of things of street terms or street things or whatever you want to call it, I'm not gonna do that. But when you look at real reality, coming from the South Bronx, I don't care. You can't tell me that it was someplace in the world worse than the South Bronx or that could bring it on like the South Bronx. I'm sorry. Okay? Because the South Bronx, you could look at it on your TV, in your newspapers, or in your history, however people want to look at it. But the South Bronx that I know and that I grew up in, it showed you to be the toughest of the toughest. And you ain't go out there and want to step on anybody's toes because that's a punk. Okay? But you made sure you always defend the line. You always stand up. Okay? And that's what you punks nowadays don't get. It ain't nothing to do with being a bully or being better than this person. Nah, Delvin ain't see that because, as I said, I was the shortest and I was the skinniest between a lot of the boys and the girls, you know? And just the South Bronx itself, you know, because you got the west side, you got the north, you know. But I'm going to say this, you know, because many people that's from around the world, they would explain it to how it is of growing up in Compton or growing up in Watts or growing up in Brooklyn, Harlem, Detroit. But as I just said, growing up in the South Bronx, I seen the toughest of the toughest. I seen the roughest of the roughest. And that's not to say this to glorify any street things, okay? Now, and I don't care how people take this too, but I'm explaining Delvin and Delnero. With all of that, seeing that, Delvin, me, I never once stepped outside of my Jordans or stepped outside of my Nikes to be a troublemaker to anybody. Okay? Because I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this with pride. I did stick my nose in a lot of stuff where males mostly was treating others wrong, okay? So, like, this is why I could say F you to a lot of humans in the world, okay? When I say I stand alone, I stand alone in many different things, okay? Hold on, please. Okay. I stand alone in many different things. And, for example, shout out to Big E from the East Coast. Bushwick High School in Brooklyn. And this is no disrespect to you, E, if you ever hear this. Shout out to Noelle. Two of my Puerto Rican friends from back then, where we didn't see each other in probably over 17 or 18 years. But this real, because we ain't putting no sugar cut on none of this. I remember when me, Big E from the East Coast, and Noelle used to cut school. And we used to leave Bushwick, Brooklyn, to go to Bed-Stuy. You feel me? We left Bushwick to go to Bed-Stuy. Okay? And shout out to you wherever you at, E. Shout out to you wherever you at, Noelle. This Jermaine. I love you. For real. That's not Delvin or Delnero. This is Jermaine talking to you. Now, remember, and this is the regular Dutch days, okay? When this ain't no Entourage or no Bluntvilles. This is either when you buy 10 Dutches or you buy that box. Okay? You buy 10 Dutches or you buy that box, or we buy 5 or we ain't buying. Now, I remember one day, Noelle told me straight up that we could go to her crib and burn it down, but her stepfather was there. You feel me? And I just say this because I ain't putting nobody on blast. Her stepfather didn't get along. You know, she didn't like who her mother was with. You know, and I was like, okay. Remember that day. It was snowing too. It was snowing. Little flurries of snow. And this was when me and Noelle, we cut school, Bushwick High School in Brooklyn. And we left. And we was in the sty, you know. And I remember we there walking around Bed-Stuy. And we was just there smoking a blunt and a half, you know. And it was, how could I say it? This is getting into what Delvin does. I use my heart and soul for those who I love, you know? I'm not going to just say I love you just to be saying I love you. Because if I say I love you, I'm going to show it to you. That don't matter who you is in this world. And it don't, because the thing is, Delvin don't say he love anybody in this world just because. Nah. Because trust me, it's going to trip you out when we get to Delnero. Now, I remember, you know, because I can remember this day. In my mind, I see it. And I remember us walking, and we there smoking a blunt and a half, like I said. And I remember we there talking about it, and I remember I told her, I said, you know, I said, don't worry, man, he a punk anyway, you know. It's talking about her stepfather. And I remember her telling me, I can't stand him, you know. And I remember, like I had told E, you know, Big E from the East Coast, love you, my brother, wherever you at, for real. You already know, for real. Now, I remember telling him, but not the whole situation, because that's one thing I don't do. I ain't gonna put people business like that outside in the universe, you know? You don't do that. Now, I remember he told me, he was like, he said, what you want to do, Jermaine? I said, what you mean? Yo, like, you know, what you mean? Like, what do I want to do? So I remember when I had to look at myself as Delvin and said, "You crazy, you wildin'. Like don't even participate in that." You know, because if me and Eric were to do anything to her stepfather, we don't know what would have happened to her and her mother. You know, so we'll leave that right there. Now, Delvin was the type to, and still is, because, saying Delvin was the type, he'll ride for you. Still do. And that's why I tell people, man, I don't care. Like, I don't care about no color. I don't care about no religion. I don't care about no gender. For me, like, I see things that people don't see. And I'm going to always be that as Delvin, you know? Now, let's turn the page now. It's time for Delnero. It's time for Delnero. Okay, hold on. Let me read the elders' comments. Excuse me. Okay. My mom's told me one day if you ask a homeless, "Are you okay?" and they say yes, don't judge because everybody okay is different. You sure right about that, and I'm going to build on that between Delvin and Delnero too. But yeah, I'm going to build on that right there where you say everybody, like your mom said, everybody is okay is different. And it's true, because my homegirl had put something on Facebook one time where she said, "I hope I get to the day where I'm tired of saying that I'm okay and I know I'm not okay." And when I read that, it hurt me because I know what she mean. You know how you say you okay and you just saying it for the person that you love or the people that you love to just let it go and not even put no pressure on that situation? But let me tell you this, my people. If you feel that you have to tell people that you're not okay, do not be scared to tell people that you're not okay. Don't be. Okay? Okay, excuse me. Bottom line, some people want to be ignorant and love ignorance. Yes, sir. Okay, hold on. My brother went to Bushwick Outreach. Okay, well, I went to Bushwick High School, right across the street from the library, right across the street from them little houses, And no matter what people say about Bushwick High School, I would always love Bushwick High School because, yeah, I could have go to Boys and Girls. I could have go to Morris High School, but at the end of the day, I moved to Brooklyn and I went to Bushwick High School. And to be honest with you, I'm never going to take nothing away from Bushwick because I learned a lot in Bushwick High School. And we had some days in Bushwick High School. And to be honest with you, Bushwick High School is one of the legendary schools in Brooklyn that people try to sleep on. Like, come on. Like, shout out to Bushwick. Like, like let's not get it twisted, like I'm sorry but not sorry. Okay. Love is a verb. It requires action. Yes, sir. Nah, shout out to the Wick for real, man. Cause like for real, cause I shit, sugar honey iced tea. I would just say like this. Big shout out to the whole Brooklyn for real. Like I could shout out different spots in Brooklyn, and that's what I'll say. I'm gonna be honest to you. And this is, I'm glad that I made this one because this one is really the real deal, because I used to always say, like, yeah, it ain't nothing like better than the Bronx. But I'm going to tell you this as me explaining Delvin and Delnero. Delvin grew up in the Bronx, and even though Delvin grew up in Brooklyn too, I'm going to say this as me explaining. Because Brooklyn is bigger than the Bronx. And I remember when we moved to Brooklyn, and that's when I was just regular Delvin, and I have a knack for, like, I like to learn stuff, and if I don't, like, pick it up, I'm one of those people that I'm not sorry to say or I'm not scared to say it, but I'm going to beat my head up on a subject. I'm going to keep on going until I learn something that I want to learn. I'm not going to let it go. That's just how my brain is, like, that's just how it goes, and my soul is not going to let me ride with it. I'm going to just keep on going bit by bit until I learn it. Okay, excuse me. Oh, man. See, Bushwick and Palmetto, well, I'll leave that for another live. But I don't really, I'm gonna have to, one day I'm gonna have to get a Brooklyn Uncensored, live for real, cause explaining as I just said, Brooklyn gave birth to Delnero. And the reason why Brooklyn is bigger than the Bronx, yes, it is. And if I'm correct, I don't know. If I look on I think Brooklyn is possibly the biggest borough, I think it's the biggest borough in New York City, because Harlem is little. Queens, and, but Brooklyn is very big, like without looking on no internet or checking the geographics or the population. Like, cause I can name many different spots in Brooklyn where you check out the population, it's more than 5,000, and then you go to another spot, it's more than 10,000. Cause, for example, I will say, how many people you think live in Brooklyn and Brownsville? Okay? We don't. That's a number that you will have to look and add up with the census. On that they're taking a census on now where they're adding up how many people live in Flatbush, how many people live in Bed-Stuy, how many people live in Bushwick. Now, never forget this. I remember 14 years old, and this is when Delnero shut Delvin off. Because, as I say, when I moved from the Bronx to Brooklyn, as I say, I thought things was a cakewalk. Even though my mother and we used to come to Brooklyn back and forth, because we got family in Brooklyn, We got family in Brownsville. We got family in Bed-Stuy. We got family in East New York. We had family in Brooklyn, New York City. This is why I don't get why people be acting like they from other states or other places when New York is probably the best in America. Why should we have competition with any place when New York is New York? Like, I don't care where you're from, Chicago, PA, California, Nebraska. It's no state in America could deal with New York. That's it. So I don't get why New York be saying, oh, this is like, no, it ain't no compromising, man. We let it. People followed. And I'm never gonna act like, oh, we need to copy off of this. No. Okay? I'm from New York. The same thing I'm talking about when we was teenagers, people from the South came to New York to buy clothes to go back down south and sell. Okay? People from Latin countries and islands came to New York to buy candy to go sell in the Caribbean islands and Latin islands. So when people talk about, no, even from our sneakers to our from our sneakers to our clothes, we set trends where other people in America and the rest of the world follow. So when people talk about New York following this, New York following that, I don't get that. Okay, now let me finish cooking. Now, Brooklyn gave birth to Delnero because, I'm going to be honest to you, living in the Bronx, yeah, I did get my little share of money, from my mother, from my pops, and one of my first jobs was packing bags and Supreme and Bravos in the Bronx. Or going to the store for certain people and they give you the change, or you gonna get your money when you come back from the store, what they call that. Some people like to act like it's a shame, but I'm gonna say shout out to all the people that was runners. Okay, because I see people want to make fun of people that used to run to the store for people. Like you ain't never run to the store for your mother or your father or anybody in the neighborhood. Stop trying to shame people on real stuff that a lot of us did in our communities. You wasn't doing it because you was nobody lapdog or anything. Or you wasn't doing it because you was somebody puppy. You was doing it because somebody that was older than you asked you to go to the store for them. Okay? Or your mother or family member asks you to go to the store for them. For real. The only time you go into the store for people like a lapdog, if you is a lapdog. But other than that, no. Now, let me explain. When, as I said, I thought everything was going to be a cakewalk. But visiting someplace and living someplace is two different things. And I'm going to be honest to you. When we actually started living in Brooklyn and I'm not visiting Brooklyn no more and Brooklyn became my house, it's like, okay. I'm going to have to switch up. This ain't, how could I say? I couldn't be Delvin no more in Brooklyn. And not saying that Delvin was too soft for Brooklyn, but Delvin couldn't really participate in Brooklyn at that time. He couldn't. Now, sorry, y'all, please forgive me for all of this that I'm about to say. Now, when 14 years old, when Delnero was manifested and born, anything before that, you ain't had no Delnero. It wasn't no Delnero at all. Hold on. Yeah, it wasn't no Delnero at all. Now, 14 years old, I told my cousin, straight up and down, I said, it's going to change, okay? And he asked me, he said, what do you mean? I said, what do I mean, bro? I said, we young. And I said, we going to get it, And I'm not going to get on here and speak about certain things Nah. But all I would say is, from 14 years old to 21, the only person that Delnero really cared about was his mother. Okay? Was his mother. That's it. Everything else was money. Okay? And how some people would say that they love money and they do this and they do that, ride or die, whatever. He didn't have time for people conversations, because as how they say, if it ain't about the money, we ain't got nothing to talk about. Well, he lived on that to the point where certain times I used to tell people straight up and down, I'm not going to talk to you if you ain't paying me some way or the other, okay? And some people may look at that as crazy or bad, but let me tell you, I wasn't going to talk to certain people if you ain't pulling no money out your pocket, because you're going to pay me for somehow, because I'm not talking to you. And some people may look at it as crazy, but I didn't like to waste my energy with certain humans and certain things, because, as I said, if it ain't about my money, why am I talking to you? Because if I'm talking to you, I better be making some money off of you, or tomorrow or later on, I better be getting some type of cash. Now, with that, it was money, okay? And I will be real. Delnero made money his best friend, where, as I said, nobody mattered but his mother and money. Because people could come there and this and that, but you ain't had a lock of to say anything, because it didn't register. You know, it didn't register. Because Delnero had many nights where he couldn't even sleep. Okay? From, like, a lot of people that say from 14 to 21 years old, didn't have much sleep. I didn't. And if I did sleep, I didn't sleep good. You know, like, always woke up. Couldn't balance your mind. And so when people talk about fighting their demons, I don't like using that. Fighting your demons, nah. When I talk about Delvin and Delnero, as I said, I can't say Delvin was the good one and Delnero was the bad one. No. It was something that was there that I had to take away from both. And I had to stop both. You know, because, to be honest with you, as I said, I can't say, oh, Delnero is bad and Delvin is so good. No. Because to be honest with you, Delvin did things that I wasn't happy with. But you know what? Delvin and Delnero always taught me. To where if I'm going left or I'm going right, Delvin made me see, like, yo, you need to chill out. But Delnero made me see, like, you was right. And I remember I was wrestling with Delvin and Delnero. And Sometimes people don't know of like fighting yourself. They don't know how hard that is. And me telling you of it hurted me every single moment, cause you thinking on one scale you don't want to be a monster, and then you thinking on the other scale you ain't gonna let nobody push over on you. And it may sound simple of a person putting that down on a piece of paper and figuring out themselves. And when I say themselves, that means you as in a whole, excuse me. Because when you just look at yourself, don't think that you just won right there. Nah. You're going to be battling with yourself for days, for years. And it's going to come that time where you got to see yourself for who you really are. See, some people will lie to themselves for years, right? And keep on telling themselves that lie. But when you come to the truth of yourself, you can't lie to yourself. Like you could continue the nonsense, but when it comes to you revealing the truth to yourself, you can't lie to yourself. And I remember for years, as I said, from 14 to 21 years old, and I'm wrestling and stuck between what Delvin and Delnero is. I'm wrestling in it. To be honest with you, many days I was beating myself up mentally. Because I wasn't balanced. I wasn't balanced. I was fighting two people at one time. And to say that, did I conquer myself? Yes, I did conquer myself. But with me conquering myself, I had to also defeat myself. I had to tear myself down, and not in a negative way, but in a positive way of cleaning out yourself of, as I said, I can't say Delvin is good and Delnero is bad. Nah. Because you had many different times where I seen stuff that I did as Delvin that I'm not going to say is right or wrong. And I did stuff as Delnero. I'm not going to say whether it's right or wrong. But I didn't agree with myself. Okay. Hold on. Let me read the elder's comment. That's called the Census Bureau. That's how they know where not to put the money in our communities. Facts. I worked for them 1 year for extra money. Big up to you, man. I love when they say keep the change as a youth. 150 was a lot back then. Man, let me tell you, elder. Yo, 150, like, and people don't even know that for real. You heard what 150 was a lot. Let me tell you, like, back then, right? I'm 42 years old, so I could tell you back then when we used a dollar was like $5 right now, where you probably buy 5 Super Bubbles. We got 75 cents left. You buy a quart of water. That's juice. You buy chicks. Then you buy a Swiss roll. That's $1 right there. You got a bag full of stuff. Okay? And then if you had like $1.50, as Open Minded just said, come on, you can hold that 50 cents in your pocket. Wait till the next day. Bless up to you. Bless up to you. Poke Mike, bless up, bless up. $5 used to hold you. $5 was like, that's like $100 right now back in the 90s, okay? $20, you was $20, you had $20. See, people don't forget, they don't forget $20. Remember getting $20 for your birthday inside of a birthday card? Come on, man. I remember getting $20 inside of a birthday card. You thought that you was the richest person in the world. Okay? And this is how people have to start to learn how to appreciate things, because nowadays some people don't even like $5. Some people don't even like $20. They look at you like you crazy. But I be like, wow, how times change. You know? How fast times change so fast, to the point where people don't respect what's need to be respected, and the stuff that don't need to be respected, that's what people respected. That's why I'm always say I'm not on nobody's side when it comes to realistic things in this world. A lot of people that like to say they're on the right side. Well, yeah, cool. But I ain't on the right or the wrong side. I'm just here, okay? Cause a lot of people would say I'm on this side, I'm on that side. People pick and choose. But when it comes to do what's really right in this world, a lot of people don't do that. Thank you for everybody that joined this live open-minded. Thank you very much. Poke Mike, thank you very much. Bless up to you. Thank you for joining this live. Much love and respect to you and open-minded. And I will be back soon. God bless. Rastafari.